Bullshit.
Pretend for a moment we've entered a parallel universe, free of bullshit and full of bold solutions. That's what the No BS show's all about. I'm your host, Dave Mastovich. Let's cut the bullshit. We're celebrating Mass Solutions' 12th anniversary this year. I made the leap full-time with my own marketing firm on tax day of 2004. Leaving the security of a C-suite corporate gig's been exciting, humbling, gratifying, stressful, fun, crazy, amazing, nerve-wracking, and rewarding. The obvious differences in work life are more freedom and less security. But the seemingly small changes had nearly as big of an impact. The phrase I thought of the most during the early years was, "You mean I have to do that?" I didn't realize how spoiled I was by all the support I had from team members in those larger companies. Yet it all seems to have worked out. I'm finally a fit for the company culture, or at least I better be. In the spirit of anniversary number 12, I'm highlighting lessons we've learned from famous number 12s. Joe Namath, Broadway Joe, believed in himself and exuded confidence. As a result, others believed in him and bought into his leadership style. You need a lot of confidence when starting a business, and I wish I had even more of it. Another number 12 you might not know wore number 12 is Pat Riley. He's the original sharp-dressed coach. He even had a shirt collar named after him, and he wore number 12 as a player for the Lakers. I'll still throw on a Pat Riley from time to time in honor of a great messaging guy who understood that telling stories to communicate goals is part of leadership. Vlade Divac. Hey, I'm a basketball guy and part Serbian, but Vlade might have made the list anyway because of his passionate selling approach. He really believed he was fouled all those times. You have to believe in what you're selling because you'll meet a lot of resistance when you start your new business. Another number 12 is Kenny Stabler, a maverick who was willing to do anything to win, but still had fun doing so. Remember Stabler from those Raiders, the arch rival of our Pittsburgh Steelers in the 70s. When you run your own company, you have to take chances, create your own way of doing things, and still make sure everyone's having a good time. The Snake always did that in his Hall of Fame career. And my last number 12 has to be a Steeler, and of course it's Terry Bradshaw. I've worked for people who thought loyalty was the most important thing. Others put all their stock in talent. You don't have to choose. Be loyal to those who have changed your life, but also value talent and creating new relationships. Terry Bradshaw makes me think of both talent and loyalty because he reminds me of my childhood. My dad yelling, "Blockhead!" at the TV when Brad did something dumb. My brother Mike and me waving terrible towels when number 12 came back to win yet another Super Bowl. My business grew because of the people who are loyal to me, clients, team members, family, friends. It also grew because of a willingness to take chances on people I didn't really know that showed potential and then maybe grew and became loyal. If you're thinking of making the entrepreneurial leap, I can tell you it's been the most rewarding 12 years of my career. If you get into the game and take what I learned from these number 12s that I mentioned, you won't regret it. Speaking of loyalty and talent, our guest today is Mike Gatti, Director of Marketing Operations and pretty much everything at Mass Solutions, who's also the first ever employee of the company, beginning his stint way back in the beginning, 12 years ago. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks for making me do this.
And so some of our listeners will know who Mike Gatti is, and that statement says it all. Mike, you're not comfortable in front of the microphone?
No, I'm fine. Excuse me.
We use predictive index a lot at Mass Solutions, and one of the categories is B. It's if you're high B, it means you're energized by relationships like Suzanne, who's bubbly. And if you're a low B, It means that relationships and communication drains you. Mike is a low B.
Yes, I'm getting drained as we speak.
So, Mike, I know. I also learned from predictive index that praising you in front of an audience is not the way to go. So I'm not going to praise you. But let's talk about when you and I first met. We met through Dave Donahue, who actually called me last week, ironically. And Dave's still at it at 80 years old, still doing career coaching.
Wow!
And he introduced Mike and I. Then Mike began doing some work pretty much the first day of the company on a project basis. And we seemed to click. So you've been here and got to see the company go through its many iterations.
Yeah.
What are some of your thoughts from the early years?
Oh, well, I mean, I remember from one of our first projects we did was putting a video on a website from a DVD, I think it was, for an education client. And it's just funny how the process involved many different compressing of the video in 5 different formats, because someone could be looking on a Windows machine or a Mac, so you had to put it in all these different formats and have these different options to save it as a video file, and then wait 20 minutes while it uploaded. And now you can just take a video on your iPhone and put it directly on your website or on a YouTube channel or whatever, and it takes 3 minutes. So it was kind of funny that was something we did and we're paid for, to be honest. So I think you met me at a basketball court to give me the DVD.
That's true. That's true. Isn't it amazing? Basketball ties to it was the Dormont Playground.
Yeah,
there.
The Dormont Playground, which is still in existence, and it every year they have a fundraiser to save the pool.
Right next
to a bar
to it.
crawl.
Yes.
Go support the Dormont pool. It needs it.
Mike was just out of college at that time and incredibly young, still very young. Mike's a technology guy, and I love technology, but I get intimidated by it. So having him was great because I want to try the technology, but then I often muddle through and get frustrated, and he saves the day. But do you remember when we first started and we would go on site at clients, or we would just meet in the South Hills because we didn't want to fight traffic? And we had, before anyone else had, we had a portable printer that was Wi-Fi. We'd set up office at Panera, or we'd set up, when we printed at Celtic Healthcare, we printed something for them, and they were in awe of us.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder what happened to that. That was actually a nice piece of timeless equipment that you could still use today. It folded up into a little rectangle. Yeah. Suzanne's in awe of the portable printer.
I know what happened to it. Alec happened to it.
It broke.
So Alec is also a tech guy, but a much more of a risk taker than me. My oldest son, entrepreneurial spirit. And when he was about 10, he started, that was probably 2006 or 2007. He started using that printer because we had brought it. You had said, we don't need it as much. So I had it at home, and he started using it, and he used it pretty well for a couple of years, but he's hard on things. Yeah.
Well, I'm just surprised that it I can't remember. You had to connect to it over Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, and it wasn't the easiest thing to use or the most perfect thing, but it's just it was ironic because I don't know. Did it plug in or did you charge it? I think you charged it. Yeah. So where do we find this? I have no idea. I'm sure one exists still, but it was probably...
Well, the things that you and I both love to try new things. And I'll give you another example. We were one of the first. I'm not going to say the first because it was the second week of the place, but at the Regional Learning Alliance, we had a strategy session for a client.
Yeah.
And we were the first.
We brought a scoreboard. We rented a basketball scoreboard and brought it to the session to do a pre-call prep exercise.
And that was for IntegraCare Corporation, which was our first client. They were actually our client in 2002. Or was that for Celtic? Well, we did both. We did Celtic.
That's right.
We did them back to back because they jokingly told us we were their best customer because we were the first.
Then we never went back.
We're the first person to use the Regional Learning Alliance twice. But we had our first client was IntegraCare while I was Chief Communications Officer at Duquesne University. And once we had them and about 3 or 4 others was when I went full time and brought Mike a part of it. So we had IntegraCare there, and then we had Celtic right shortly thereafter.
Yeah, another good IntegraCare technology stories. We used to do their mystery shops for them, and we would tape record an actual cassette. We'd mail a tape deck and a cassette to a mystery shopper,
and all that wiring stuff from Radio Shack.
They'd wire the phone to the cassette player, and then tape it, and then. So we used to mail the tapes to the client, and then I don't know about 2006 maybe.
I can remember
we started
the day we started.
We would transfer them from a cassette to a computer, and we were awe.
They were in awe of us, and we were in the mystery shopping space. We were ahead of even national players, because Mike and I just said, can we make this an audiophile? Now think about this, Suzanne. We would take a cassette player, okay, and a tape and equipment from Radio Shack, put it in a box and mail it to someone who was going to do a set of shops for us. And we're going to make, let's say we're going to pay them $50. We were entrusting them to then send that back to us, and we'd send them the envelope, send it back, or we'd go meet them if we could. That was our process.
Yeah, and they used to, and it was like the calls that you would get. They'd try to do it from a portable phone, and it wouldn't work. And then like, I don't have a wired phone, and it was like, now it's all like you just call into a number, and it auto records and spits out an MP3. But back then, and then you had to take the raw audio file, take an audio out from the tape recorder, and then capture it on your computer, then compress it to an MP3 or something.
They thought we were amazing when we
and I mean,
clients.
and then you have to think about file delivery, because this was, in the infancy of like a Dropbox or something at that point. So you'd have to then. So what we would do is we would upload them to our website on a secured URL and send them backlinks for it of like, a link that was, 200 characters long that was whatever. And we used to do them every month.
And I can tell you what we would do is I would do shops. Darlene would do shops. Joe Andrews would do shops. Eric Andrews. So once you run out of friends that you want to do it, and then the friends would think they were doing us a favor, and we'd go, no, we want you to treat this like, we're paying you more than market rate. We would pay you 20% more than anyone else would. And they still kind of act like, I'm helping Dave out. So then it was like, when you're doing it that way, it's just not the same. So then we had to start advertising for people. And I will say that I was on the board of the Mystery Shopping Providers Association, MSPA, for a number of years. Not many people do healthcare today. 10 years ago, hardly anyone was. When I did the first set of shops in the late 90s for Monongahela Valley Hospital, we just did them ourselves as a internal department, and we did sophisticated ones, not just like a little shop. That's what gave me the idea that we could do these kind of shops, and no one was doing healthcare shopping, and still really isn't.
No, I think it's a market that some people have decided to go full bore into and just be a healthcare. I mean, but with mystery shopping, it's just funny because there's no perfect formula, and I've done enough of them, thousands over the years at least, that to show like the recruitment's always a problem. You always have to have a pool of people to draw from. You can't keep sending the same person to the same place over and over again. I mean, that's just ridiculous as far as from a quality standpoint. So, yeah, there's no mystery in the shop at that point. It's just the shop. And then obviously finding the people is the challenge, and then just doing it logistically and finding enough people with attention to detail that are going to actually follow through with it, because that's another tough part is you have to follow a specific set procedure to do the shop correctly. So if they deviate from that, they think, oh, it's not a big deal. I called this other phone number instead of the main number. Well, it is a big deal. So then you have to redo the whole thing. So
yeah, it's the No BS Show. I'm Dave Mastovich. That's Mike Gatti, first ever employee, key team player at Mass Solutions. And we're talking about mystery shops. And since we usually go into the BS segment, let's just talk about how there is some BS with it. The first is when we go through all the stuff Mike just said about recruiting people, telling them the process, training, getting it all done. What ends up happening is you go to a client, you tell them what it's going to cost, and they think that it should be like $10.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of the issue too, is that we're not we do mystery shopping. We're not a shop boutique, or I call it a chop shop. But I think that it's one of those things that needs to be done because it gives you actual marketing intel from the field. So you're actually seeing what the customers see, hearing what the customers see, or hear, not see. But it's one of those things that is, you have to take it with a grain of salt too, because yeah, shoppers are going to screw up, or it's not going to go perfect. but you're still getting valuable information that you can basically get from nowhere else.
And another part of the BS with shops is you have to have a leader. Like a couple of our clients, there's really strong leadership, and they say to the marketing team or the sales team, mostly the sales team, this is the reality, what perception's reality, whatever that shopper thinks. You need that because you and I have had battles over the years where salespeople came back and wanted to argue about what the shopper rated them.
Yeah, I hate scoring shops even. Everyone wants it because you want to quantify the process or quantify and say an 88 is better than a 50. Well, yeah, but I hate even scoring shops. I think that you should just take the information as is and take it as a qualitative set of information and then have an open discussion with your team about those results and say, look, here's where we're lacking. And strictly in an anecdotal type of manner, as opposed to saying like, well, you got an 88, because then immediately, hey, I'm not blaming the salespeople. If you're a good salesperson and you get an 88, you want to get 100.
If you get a 65, you're ready to fist fight.
Yeah, so you're going to go through it with a fine-tooth comb and say, oh, well, wait, this one is kind of maybe could be a yes instead of a no, or an NA, a not applicable. So then that takes my total score down and it bumps my percentage up 3 points. So I think that the whole shopping industry has never really done a well enough job educating the public on what shopping is. Like Dateline or 2020, whatever. One of those shows, did a thing on mystery shopping about like, oh, go get free McDonald's and be a mystery shopper. And so now that's what everyone thinks it is. And it's absolutely, that's a part of it. Retail is a part of mystery shopping that's easy to kind of replicate, but I think a lot of it is just BS. Bullshit. Yes, that.
The No BS Marketing Podcast with Dave Mastovich is brought to you by Mass Solutions. Put our 3-step No BS process to work for you. Visit masssolutions.biz today to take your marketing to another level. It's all about bold solutions, no BS.
Well, since we talked about that, go into marketing intel and how we do it here, because you're passionate about it, and shopping is a small piece of it. And intel can really change the game for companies. In fact, one of our companies just sent an email that said it changed the game for them twice.
Yeah. Well, I think that a lot of people they're usually just going out, scanning the marketplace, and then trying to mimic or copy the people who are successful in the marketplace or within their industry. And, that can work to a degree, but if you really want to be different and set your own growth pattern, I think you have to hear from your customers and your referral sources, and not just in healthcare referral sources. Every industry has referral sources. Everyone refers someone business. That's just how it works. And so you need to have someone reach out to them and talk to them and ask them, why are you referring to company X, and do they make it easy for you, or is it a pain? And that's just on the referral source side.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because the average listener might go, what do you mean referral source? Oh, they're talking about healthcare. But as you said, everyone has somebody who recommends that company to someone else.
Yeah, I mean, even I got my hardwood floors redone in my house when I moved in, and Dave referred me a guy that does hardwood restoration. So it's not like it can, kind of straddle any service or any industry, because as you develop relationships, professional and personal, someone, you trust someone, you're going to say, oh, hey, do you know anyone that does X? It doesn't matter if it's SEO or a babysitter or, even a good restaurant to an extent. So I think that every company has referrals in some shape or form, whether you're a professional services company, or if we're talking in actual healthcare, you have actual referrals from health systems or hospitals.
So let's say you have an accounting firm. How can an accounting firm benefit from Mass Solutions Intel?
Well, I think that if you're learning about what your customers are actually seeing as your Big differentiating factor. Everyone always, we always do our intel and we always ask questions and make sure we say, except for price, because everyone always kind of leans back on price and says that's the reason they buy. And we all know that from doing that's not typically not the reason, especially in a B2B setting. They could say value, but it's not about price. It's about other factors beyond price. And that's really what the intel uncovers. Regardless of industry, you always get some business from the people we call during the intel process, where we'll reach out to a lot of clients and it just truly shows you top of mind is so important, because they'll come back and go, oh, I forgot about those guys. I should give my contact a call over there. So going back to the original question, an accounting firm, for example, has many different referral sources, and they don't typically reach out to clients. They might do throughout their process, doing their tax return, whatever, but they don't really, and they do maybe a customer satisfaction, typical kind of BS survey of like 25 questions that no one completes. But they never really just have someone reach out and have a candid conversation with them and just say, hey, how can we get better? And I think a lot of people find that refreshing.
And when it's made from an outside firm, they actually are able to be more candid because they're not uncomfortable.
The third party firm is important, because like if your contact calls you, you're going to feel awkward telling them that, hey, you completely screwed something up, or I didn't like how you handled situation X. They might, it's just going to be an awkward conversation that no one wants to have.
So we have these conversations, talk about how we do it, because it's not quantitative. We do sometimes do quantitative research, and we partner up with Lloyd Corder, who was a guest on the show, a true research guru who's helped us along the way so much. He's going to get you much more quantitative when you need to talk to 1,000 people or 500 people. Talk about
when he's doing, he's going to do more data-driven stuff. And, we're very data-driven here, but the whole point of the intel is to get qualitative feedback. So, the idea is to get these little nuggets of information that can be game changers for your company, directly from the client's mouth. And, we do, like Dave said, a little bit of quantitative stuff, like we're big fans of Net Promoter Score and some other, service recognition type of questions. But the true value and the real good information comes from asking open-ended questions and having a conversation with those people and probing further based on their answers. That's what's important, is based on the answers that you get, you have to ask follow-up questions. That's why we invest a lot of resources and time in doing the calls ourselves, amongst the group of people in this room right now, as well as we do a very intensive training if we have other people do the calls, because it's only going to be as good as the caller, the actual results you get. So it's worth investing that time and energy on the front end to make sure it's done right.
It's an OBS marketing show. I'm Dave Mastovich, and that's Mike Gatti, first ever employee at Mass Solutions and a senior leader here. He's talking about marketing intel and the impact it can make for your company. Talk about the audit part, because there's the secret shopping part, the secret mystery shopping part. There's the qualitative phone call part to referral sources, customers. There's employee interviews, senior leader interviews, but then there's also an audit of your marketing.
Yeah. Well, the employee interviews are always good too, just to get their kind of perspective and buy-in. And we do a mass interview, or not a mass interview, but I guess a mass survey sent out to all employees, and those are always some interesting comments that you get back. But it just proves our point that a third party, people are going to be more candid if they can know they're anonymous and it's coming from a third party. But what was the
senior leader conversations?
Well, yeah.
So like, for example, some companies have 6, 7, 8 people in senior leadership. You do a one-on-one, and you and Suzanne and myself and maybe Mike Maz, our 4 senior leaders, tend to make the calls to their senior leaders. It gets incredible information, and then we bring them together in the room and talk about that because it's often different, right?
Yeah, and to get kind of everyone on the same page, because they can be, subtle differences can actually, though, drive what we're doing to make sure that all the key stakeholders are on board and we get buy-in from them. Because when we're doing any type of project, any marketing firm needs to get buy-in internally, or else it's going to be one of those things that falls flat, because they'll provide strategy or direction, and then if it's not implemented, it was all for naught. But going back to the main, another main portion of the marketing intel is the brand audit and the marketing audit. So kind of the, one and the same. The marketing audit, I guess, is the more universal term, and within that you have a brand audit and a messaging audit. And that's whenever we take a look at all of the current marketing materials from a branding standpoint. Nobody's as consistent as they should be. And that's not a knock on everyone out there. It's just a matter of sometimes you're doing 1,000 different things, and you need a PowerPoint for the CEO. So you slap a logo on there that probably shouldn't be on there, or it has the wrong background color, or maybe you don't have the right fonts installed in your PowerPoint. So you end up going and having to, replace them or use a different font.
Or you don't have the same words, like you're not using the slogan. Like at UPMC, I used to be appalled that a hospital would be using a different slogan or a different logo on an advertisement. Yeah, and I mean, or what happens is someone goes and gets brochures printed, and they get 10,000 brochures printed because they save 12 cents a piece on the brochure. So you have a stack of brochures, and then you go and update your logo or your slogan, or maybe a tagline, or just even the basic, pillars of messaging that you update. So now you have 9,742 of the brochures left. So what are you going to do with them? You don't want to throw them all away or burn them. So you just keep passing them out, and actually, at that point, it actually is detrimental to the company. It actually hurts you. A lot of times it's just benign, and it just is, it's not really hurting you, but it's not really helping you. So anyway, what we do is we'll go in and take a look at all of that stuff and just kind of give you a quick summary that is saying, hey, this is the inconsistencies. Here's how we think you can fix it economically. And that's one of the things too, that's, we don't mess around. We're no BS marketers. So we're not going to come in and say, yeah, you need to redo everything. It's $200,000. No, that's ridiculous. Like, the companies we're working with, they can't afford that, and they shouldn't do that. So we come in and give them actually implementable goals with their branding, and saying, hey, let's adjust everything digitally, and then use up all your business cards. And as you get new business cards, do not print a new one with the old logo on it and all of that stuff. So that's part of it. And then obviously the words are important too, because with the overload of information now, you need to simplify your message. And I think a lot of times people use printed collaterals and their website as this like sounding board to tell their entire story word for word. And it's one of those things that it's just too overwhelming. People don't, unfortunately, want to read, and they don't want to have to sift through information to find what they're looking for. So you have to drive the user both online and offline to where the key messages are that resonate with them. That's Mike Gatti, head of marketing operations here at Mass Solutions, also the historic first employee. We celebrated our 12th anniversary with these 2 episodes. Mike, how can listeners contact you if they'd like to learn more about what you do? Because we know you want to really interact with as many people as possible.
Yeah. I have a private email. You can contact me through Suzanne Mayer. No. Her email is suzanne@masssolutions.biz, SUZANNE @masssolutions.biz. Or you can email me directly. I don't care. I might not answer though. It's Gatti at masssolutions.biz. Gatti.
That's another whole story. I know you have to go, but the Gatti, she has Suzanne. I have Dave, and Mike has Mike, and then you have Gatti.
Yeah. Well, Mike was already taken, or we were going to give it to your brother. So
he is Gatti, though.
Well, everyone's called me that since, I've been in grade school. It's just one of those easy last names, short, so you can
2 syllables.
And, that's what you did when you were kids, called everyone by their last name. Because there's 28 Mikes in your class, so.
Gatti, thanks for being on the show. Thanks for joining us for the No Bullshit Marketing Show.
Sorry, I have to run to an appointment. I'm already late, but if anyone's looking for gift ideas, you can buy me any type of Yeti glasses or tumblers or anything like that. It's my new favorite thing in the world.
He has it in his hand. We're going to get a Mass Solutions logoed one, so he's happy.
Yes. They're stainless steel.
Thank you to our listeners. I wanted to ask you if you could visit boldsolutionsnobs.com to get the fact check on the brain on drugs and all the other show notes, plus additional marketing and messaging resources. Sign up for light reading. You'll receive valuable strategies every other week to improve your marketing and transform your message. It really is light, intended to be read in 2 minutes or less, and it just might trigger bright ideas for you. Sign up visiting masssolutions.biz. Remember, ask yourself, what's the big idea? And build your story around the answer. It's all about bold